Good morning, Rabbi Isai. I want to talk a little bit about London. This is a picture of Avi Factor making, I think, the very first get-together in London. That screen, for some reason, is not working. I wish it was. This is the before, a year and a half ago, and this is the after. Unbelievable. So, and now if you have some good sound going, you have good sound? Really high, really nice.
All right, 1, 2, 3, get ready together. Holy smoly.
That was Yisrael Goldstein who was taking the video. Couldn't believe. Okay, and here is some of the Rikud. Look at that band, the whole choir. All right, so I wanted to speak about a little Nakuda there, because Donnie Fine came over to me last night after the shir, and he said that he was blown away by the Achnas Zarchem. I think everybody was. And when any guest that flew in received a box this big, an MDY box. It said MDY all over it. And here's some of the gifts that came in the box. MDY Havdalah set with MDY matchbox. It was over the top, and I had a little bit of an argument with one of the guests. He said, "But why?" And breakfast every day, and a note to each person. He says, "But isn't it enough to have one pair of MDY socks in the box? Why two?" I'm like, "No. MDY is all about being large. We always went all out, whether it's building a new building for Daf Yomi, giving free Gemaras. What?
We should have 2 feet. We need two socks.
We need 4 socks they gave us, but thank you.
Your hands.
Yeah. And then I was thinking that it's mefurish in this week's parsha. Avrum Avinu went out and he shechted a calf just for the tongue, to be machnesorich to people he doesn't even know. A tongue. So the guy, that same argument would be said, why over the top? Why a tongue? Isn't the rib enough? Isn't it? No. A tongue for each guest. That's over the top Shen Kemoy for people they don't even know. And these are people that are doing the daf, people that are our best friends. Of course you have to give them 2 pairs of socks. It should have been 3 or 4. But Donnie told me that he literally came away from there with a new appreciation of Achnas Sarchim when he was in the Merkaz and a random person came over to him and said, "Can I come over to you for Shabbos?" And he says, "Yes, come to Shabbos." And he called up his wife and said, "What can we do special? How can we?" So we learned something from London. I want to show you something that's really over the top. The gift I received from the Chevra, especially Noam and Avi, who are both here, but I know Noam is flying away tonight, and maybe to explain what's going on here. This piece of parchment that it's on costs 600 shekel. I didn't know that. I was told later on. This is real parchment. And from every single daf, they took out one halacha, one yisoid. Shas Katan it's called. It's the ksuba of Shas Katan. And their idea is they're trying to tell people, write in your Gemara one yisoid. You learned the word atfasa, put it in the back of your Gemara. Any day that you learn a halacha or something, some people just put their jokes in. That's also good. Halachas, jokes, whatever you take out from the shir. Here, somebody, you have to do it kind of tight. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful gift. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to hang it up here in the Beis Medrash. No? That's the plan? Okay, shkoyach. This took many, many hours to put together, so I really appreciate it. Yishkoyach, still on a high from this whole thing. I just don't want to forget this. Every day I keep on pushing it off. Hi, my husband. Eli Beitelman is a big fan of your Daf Yomi Shurim. His 40th birthday is coming up on Tes Cheshvan. She must have sent this a month ago. And if you send me something a month ago, it's very hard for me to remember. So I realize now that I missed this. It was 3 days ago or something. Is there any way you could give him a shout out in the beginning of this year? Mazel Tov on the big 40th. And dear Reb Eli, listen to this. I have no words to describe last night's Siyum. I got a bunch of emails. Maybe I'll try to read them, where people they described how they were crying throughout the Siyum. I thought I was the only one crying. They were crying as well. But it says, I'm all your ability to zchus, track, marbis, different backgrounds. Some younger boys have gradually began joining your shir, wanting to be part of MDY. I had an idea that I wanted to share with you, but couldn't find the right moment last night. MDY has so many adult members, and many of the members are zchus to have children. Many of these young children would love to be part of MDY, but are unable to complete the daf, and are therefore limited to Good Morning Rabbi Sai. I was thinking, wouldn't it be amazing to start an MDY Junior? We have WMDY, now we have JMDY. B'kitzur, we have MDY Junior. An entire 8 or 15-minute Gemara learning program covering a far smaller amount. A short sharing Geshmaki Gemara starting brachas, for example, for schoolboys. There must be so many children club members who would be able to join for about 10 minutes a day. Kids, it's a great idea. I like the 8-minute dive. Your editor, which could, for example, use your same share. Anyways, I don't know if Fishel heard about this email or he came up with this on his own, but Fishel is offering a free sweatshirt, a junior MDY sweatshirt for any child that joins the junior MDY program if it ever gets off the ground. Okay, after the Parsha thing and after the Mishnah Berurah and the 8-minute daf and the junior, it's not a big deal. And the second shir at night, what? What's this Parsha this week? Yeah, I did. Yeah, but it came right, I sent it right before Shkia. It came afterwards. You can possibly instill cheshik and love for Torah for so many boys. If anybody wants to add to this idea, great help to them. Their Kodesh curriculum, just an idea. Would appreciate your thoughts on the above. Thank you for taking the time to read it. Avi Stern, Yishkoyach Avi Stern, we love new ideas. The Koilel is sponsored Lina Nishmas Chaya Bas Yosef, the Masechta in Zgula Katorim Tomechia K'iyaakov Yal Lak. The Paras HaChodesh, the first one is Lina Nishmas Zechariah ben Moshe. The second one, Jeff Razin, Sechus, my son Yosef, Simcha, Chaim, ben Chana, Refuah Shlaima. Amen. Third, by Dr. Avrum Epstein, in memory of my dear departed loved ones, included in my recent Yontav yizkors. The first Paras Hayoim in zchus for a healthy child, easy pregnancy, and Besuros Toiwos for Sharon, Bas Rivka. Amen. By Hainoch, Schwimmer, otherwise known as Schwinger. Schwinger. Anybody know Hainoch? Hainoch. In honor of my dear father joining us on Reb Eli Daf Journey. Papa, we love you. He came over to me like during the whole Siyum, he was there, his father, but he didn't want to jump in. And if somehow, towards the end, after one of the speeches, I think it was the speech, Reb Eli, I recommend watching Guy Levine, right? That was his name, Guy Levine. A bunch of people watched it. It's kedai to watch. I think it's online now. It's an unbelievable speech by a person who just became a Baal Tshuva and joined the Daf. And finally, I just want to remind the Olam that Nedarim, Volume 2, is around the corner. So if anybody wants to do a nice sponsorship for Volume 2, we are looking for donors at mdysponsor.com. Yishkoyach. Okay, so yesterday we started the sugi. We asked the question. We could go over it real quickly. Rav Chama, Rami Bar Chama asked the question. It goes like this. The animal, as you see in the chart, there's 3 stages here. There's an animal that's minding its own business, it's chulin. Then somebody makes it a shlamim. I just put a scary face because I know it's going to get shechted any minute. So it's a shlamim. Once a person says this animal is a shlamim, it becomes asur for you to use, to eat, to do anything. Then they shecht it, and the kayin does the 4 avodas, shchita, kabbalah, hilacha, zrika. By the zrika, once he pours the blood on the mizbeach, then that animal becomes mutter to eat. So we have a shayla like this. He has the shlamim that's already shechted, it's on the floor, it's in a box, it's on the butcher table by Benny's. And a guy takes a loaf of bread and he says, this loaf of bread should be like this piece of meat. What did he mean? Did he mean Mi'ikara katafis? Is he going to step 1, mi'ikara, which is in this case step 2? Forget step 1. That's not a shaila at all. Of course, he didn't mean to make his bread like a roaming sheep in somebody's barn. He meant either step 2 or step 3. Mi'ikara kamatvis. So that's the whole sugya today. Are we going on the initial? Because right now his piece of meat is 100% mutter to eat. The butcher's chopping it up to give it to Yisrael and to anybody. So did he mean it should be like this piece of meat that's mutter, which means that my loaf of bread is mutter? So then what is he saying? Or did he mean it should be like the shlomim that was also mi'ikara? Does he go backwards? We could see it inside, 2 lines from the bottom. My loaf of bread should be like this piece of meat. Did he do atfasa? Again, what does the word atfasa mean? This should be like this. It should be linked to this. It should be associated to 2 words I don't like. This should be like this. I don't know if there's a word in English. If somebody has a better word, let me know. Who? Comparable. But I want it to be with the same halachas as that thing. Equivalent? Equivalent, maybe. Equivalent to that. Okay. I want it to be equivalent to that. So is he doing bi'ikarai? Is he going backwards? Not what it is today, but what it was yesterday in step 2, which was an usher animal called shlamim. Or he's talking about what it is right now, and right now it's mutter, which wouldn't make any sense. Why is he saying that his loaf of bread should be like something that's mutter? It is mutter already before anything else. Omer Rava Toshma says, Rava, I have a raya. Noisar upigol. In our Mishnah, person said that his loaf of bread should be 1 word. He didn't say ke. He didn't say le, la, nothing. He just said, my loaf of bread, noisar. Let's drop, because it is Nedarim, we'll drop the word pigol. It doesn't make sense really in this sugya. Okay? They go together, nois and pigol. We're talking about noisar. Noisar is that, let's say you could eat the shlamim for 2 days and a night. He left it over 3-4 days. He found a piece of meat in his refrigerator. Expired. Noisar, you're not allowed to eat it. Also, with the rice to eat. So a person takes a piece of bread. He says, my bread should be like this piece in the fridge. The noisar. The halacha is, we learned nicer in the Mishnah, it's also, it's a good neder. Now what's noisar? Says Rav like this. So think about it. We all know all the halacha. If somebody says, my loaf of bread should be like a pig, like a pig, doesn't work. Why? Because it's davar ha-asr, not davar ha-nadar. It has to be something that became asr through somebody's mouth, through a neder. If I want to be matfis, my loaf of bread, it has to be equivalent to something else that became asr through somebody's mouth. Pig was born asr. What about noisar? Was noisar born asr or was made by a human being? It was born asr. It became asr automatically, not through somebody's mouth. By expiring, by going past shkia on the second day, boom, it became asr on the spot. So when a person looks at his loaf of bread and he says, now look at the chart. You have 4 options here. He says, my loaf of bread should be like a piece of noisar, like noisar. What is he referring to? If it's step 4, it's nothing. It's like pig, his loaf of bread is mutter. If it's like step 3, it's mutter. Elamai, what he really meant is step 2. That's the raya of the Gemara. You see, when a person says that his loaf of bread should be like this thing in front of him, he's going backwards. He's going mi'ikarai. Because he cannot be meaning what it is right now, because right now it's pig. Right now it's noisar. It happened by itself. The neder doesn't work. Noisar, step 4. Hold on. Well, zrika is mutter. He's trying to say that his loaf of bread is asr. Why would I say anything? I have a loaf of bread. Here, this is my loaf of bread. Right now, I could eat my loaf of bread. I have no problem. So I'm saying something. I'm trying to say something. I'm trying to articulate something here. I'm trying to say this is like that. I'm pointing to that. Now that is noisar. That is equivalent to pig. Not that tefillin. That. Okay? That is equivalent to PIG. Noisar happened by itself. PIG happened by itself. Anything that happens by itself, you can't make a nether on. A nether, it says in the Torah, Kiyidar, has to be Dover HaNadar, not Dover Asur.
You don't suggest he was Torah on what he said, and we throw it out and it reverts to nothing?
Right.
It could have
We don't care what he. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. What? Maybe Zamaretz. Okay, but that's the whole sugya. That's the whole masechta. So throughout the whole masechta, talking about a guy that knows his stuff. What does he mean? Now we can't ask him, as we discussed yesterday. It doesn't matter what he says. What did the guy mean? Does the guy typically mean what's in front of him right now, and what's in front of him right now doesn't work for another, or did he perhaps mean something that was yesterday? That's it. Maybe you and I would go with, why would a guy go yesterday? No, it's hard to understand. But that's the shaila here. So we're proving from Noisar. Again, a guy says Noisar, and it does work. Why would the Mishnah say it works? So you should have asked, your kashari, you should have asked in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, a guy says, my loaf of bread should be like Noisar. It's a good nether. But why? Noisar is a davar asur, not a davar hanidar, not a davar nadar. So it shouldn't work. Elamai, you have to say, they didn't mean right now. He meant the piece of meat that was yesterday, which was asur in a different stage, not the mutter stage, in the asur stage. Otherwise, why would it be asur? In stage 2, not in stage 3, which is taka mutter. But it can't mean the guy's meshuga, the guy's making a nether, my loaf of bread should be in stage 3 where everybody's eating it. Of course he didn't mean that. He meant in a different stage. Says the Gemara, since it's possible to say that the carbon is not a shlamim, here, go to the chart. All I did here is I changed the shlamim to oila. But what happens is, check out what happens to the zrika. The zrika also becomes asr. Because an oila never becomes mutter to eat. Oila goes on a mizbeach. It's kulay Hashem. So if we're talking about, since we're talking about, it could be talking about a carbon oila. So therefore, he said he's going mi karai, but there's no stages in between. There's no stage of mutter. So I can't bring a right to my case. My case is a case where there's a stage of mutter in between. So since this case could be talking about that it's also from beginning to end, there's no right to our sugya. Rabbi Macham was asking on a piece of shlama meat that right now is mutter. Did he mean yesterday when it was asr, or today that's mutter? Well, there's no mutter in this case because it's all asr. Asr throughout all the stages. That's oila. Amalei, well, so he gets him good. Imkain, listening b'psar oila. Then why does the Brisa mention stage 4 that it's a noisar? Just say it's a oila. A oila is asr from the beginning. It's asr through zrika, and it's asr through noisar. Yes, you're right. The oila became noisar. It expired, but it's asr because it's a oila, because it's stage 2, not because it's stage 4. It's already asr from beforehand. No, but that's not a heter. And not only that, worse than that, we'll see later, even if certain people maybe could eat it, kohanim could eat it, it's still considered asr. Well, mutar is bad, that's already, that's in kachin we talk about. In Kain, listening b'psar oila, says Gemara, no, it's telling us a beautiful thing. The guy looked at his loaf of bread and he said, this loaf of bread should be like stage 4, like Noisar. But it's already a oila. So it says very simple. If he says his loaf of bread should be like the oila, of course it's a good nether. But Noisar upigel the oila, it's richa, but we need the chiddush to say that he used a different word. He used the word Noisar. Sagad adachamina ki isur Noisar. Pigel. It's interesting how the Gemara keeps on talking about pigel, when the Rishonim say the word pigel doesn't really apply here. But anyways, I would think that Lamaisi used a wrong word. He used the word noisar, and noisar is like pig. Noisar is a davara asur, and he made a nether in the wrong thing. V'loy mitzar, and it shouldn't be a good nether. Kamash malan, that what he meant when he said noisar is, V'avalei kimatvis b'davara asur v'loy mitzar. And it's as if he made the nether in something that's asur, which is noisar, pig, etc., those kind of things. But he used the word noisar, and he literally perhaps meant noisar. No, what he meant is the original carbon, not the noisar, not today's final stage. This animal turned into a noisar, an expired carbon. What he meant is I want my loaf of bread to be like an oila, and that's a perfect neder, because the oila is a carbon that's also.
Ironically, his mistake actually does stick. He calls it nosar, but we interpret his meaning as...
It's not a mistake. He didn't make a mistake. He knew what he was doing. That's the whole point.
Shouldn't have worked.
It shouldn't have worked if he was literal with what he meant. But he was a Talmud Chacham. He didn't mean noise. He says, you see this piece of noise? He's talking in riddles. He says, I want my loaf of bread to be like this piece of noisar. He's right, it's like this piece of noisar. But he meant the original Isser that was created on that piece, which was 2 days ago when it was the Oila. Meisvei. Again, the Rishonim point out that this is Nedarim, and the Lashon is Meshuna. It doesn't mean Meisvei, it means Tashma. It's not a question, it's a Raya. Tashma, like Meisvei, Ezu Isser Ha'amor Batoira. How do you do Hatfasa? How do you say my loaf of bread should be like this piece of whatever? Omar, listen to this case. Again, a funny lashon, a lashon meshuna, but basically he's looking at a piece of bread and he's saying this piece of bread should be asur on me. He uses a different lashon. The Gemara says a different lashon. I am not going to eat. What he means is this loaf of bread, a matvis, this loaf of bread, in a time and a place that the loaf of bread was asur to me. When? His father's yahrzeit. His father's yahrzeit. So I just want to discuss a father's yahrzeit for a minute here. There's an inyan to fast on a father's yahrzeit. It's in the Shulchan Aruch. Not brought in the Shulchan Aruch to do tikkun and to do a nice su'uda. Oh, no, I'm getting there. That's more of a chassidish minhag, and I'm getting there. The Shulchan Aruch says you should fast. What's the inyan to fast? So there's a number of reasons given to fast. First reason is it's a bad mazel for the person. Bad mazel. So you fast. Another reason is kibbud aveim. Another reason is to remind the person of the tsaris that he had. Another reason is to give his father's neshama kapara. So the Minchas Yizchak says, however, in our days when people are weak, they don't have the koyach anymore to fast, it's too much for them, they should do tzedakah and achnas sarchim. How do you do tzedakah and achnas sarchim? You make a big suda, and you invite a lot of people, some people you don't even know, and then so you do achnas sarchim, and that's zchus, that they're giving food to other people, that should be a zchus for the neshama. And that's where the minhag comes from to do tikkun and shul. You bring some schnapps, some kalta like myself. Don't do it because this is Deichemet that says what kind of chutzpah is this? People bring food and schnapps in the shul. What is this? It's a shul. Everybody shalaylam. So kids of today, everybody, it's Deichemet. It's brachas. We're trying to bring amen and stuff. Okay, so that's why I'm just pointing out the different things. Personally today, I think it's already accepted, and if you don't do it, you're considered, something's wrong with you. But just to show how I think most people are familiar with tikkun and schnapps and bromfin in shul, and they don't realize that the Shulchan Aruch actually says you should fast. So I myself, I went to Reb Chaim the first, right after my mother's nifter, and I asked him what I should do. He said, do not fast on the first yahrzeit. Because if you fast on the first yahrzeit, you'll have to fast for the rest of your life. So I'm happy I took his advice. I purposely didn't fast on the first yahrzeit, and then I fasted every single yahrzeit until this past yahrzeit. Or maybe 2 yards. I don't remember what I did 2 years ago. Because I realized that if I fast, I won't be able to prepare, and I won't be able to give a good cheer. So I was happy that Reb Chaim told me, not that I figured it will be a bigger zchus for my mother if I I'll be more with it and not in a fasting state. But if anybody wants to fast, even years later, you could just pick it up and still be a zchus for the neshama, and it's a day of bad mazel, and all the reasons given by Rishonim and whatever, they still apply, even if you never fasted.
You should say
Yeah, you have to say b'li neder.
parents?
It's parents. Yeah. It's the same thing. It's bad mazel, kibud avoim, all the reasons apply to a mother. It's like, what is it? Kapara of the neshama. You don't want your mother to have a kapara, not your a mother's neshama. Kids, I think the reasons, I don't think it makes it enough community. This is not the sugya. I'm just throwing it in there. We're going fast here. Kiyom shemeis b'Aviv. Kiyom shemeis b'Rabbi. His Rabbi Muvak, I don't know if they have that today, but a Rebbe Muvak, you sit, people fast. Kiyom shener boy Gedalia ben Achikam. So we are familiar with Tzom Gedalia. What is Tzom Gedalia? I think some people fast on Tzom Gedalia, they're not really familiar with what happened. We'll go through it quickly. Gedalia ben Achikam, after the Churban Abayis, Nebuchadnezzar put Gedalia ben Achikam as the king, as the ruler of Klal Yisrael, the small amount of Jews that remained. Kitzer, somebody came along, and he wanted to rule, and he killed Gedalia. And the Jews were nervous that Nebuchadnezzar put this guy in, and now we went and we killed him. They were nervous that he's gonna take revenge on them, that they didn't watch the person they put in charge. They went to the Navi, I think it was Yirmiyah, and they asked him what they should do. So he said, "You want to know? I'll tell you. But you have to listen to what the Nevuah is. You have to promise." He said, "Yeah, we'll listen. No matter what, you will listen." It took him 10 days to get back to them, because the Nevuah didn't come for 10 days, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that they are going to want to go to Mitzrayim. They shouldn't go to Mitzrayim. If they go to Mitzrayim, they're going to die. So he told them that's the Nevuah. So, typical, what do we do today? He didn't mean it. It wasn't like that. It wasn't a real Nevuah. It was really his Talmud. I was trying to be a Navi. Excuses. They already had their luggage packed to go to Mitzrayim. They went to Mitzrayim, and they all died. So therefore, we consider the death of Gedalia the end of the whole situation. They could have rebuilt Klal Yisrael, technically speaking, if they would have listened to the Nevuah, and they didn't. So therefore, we have Tzom Gedalia. Some people even say that he died on Rosh Hashanah, but it's Rosh Hashanah, so they pushed it off for 3 days. Okay. So he's saying, this loaf of bread should be like the day that Gedalia died. I'm going to go into that for a second later, because it's actually a day of fasting. So he didn't add anything to the bread. He's saying, my bread should be also to me like the day that the whole Klal Yisrael fasts. Okay. Like the day that I saw Yerushalayim, and it's Churban, the day that you have to fast. So comes Shmuel and says, so here's a little bit of a chart I did. Here's the Levaya. The yard side is in step 2. Before the Levaya, a year before that, nothing happened. It was just a regular day. Tavshin Pei Beis, it was a terrible, sad day. Tavshin Pei Gimel, he didn't fast. Tavshin Pei Dalet, all the way in step 4, he wakes up, he says, I want to fast, I want my loaf of bread. He's standing on the yard side. Okay, that day in the calendar, on a Sunday, on the first day of Nisan, he says, okay, this loaf of bread should be exactly like in step 2. Step 2, I fasted. And Mamela, I want my bread to be like step 2. Says Shmuel, V'hu shenadar. You see, I put a little box there. That's Shmuel. The little box under the 2 is because it's not stam that he didn't eat that day. He made a neder. He was so sad. He said, I'm making a neder that today, the death of his father, he's not eating. And Mamela, on Tavshin Pei Dalid, on step 4, he does a hatfasa. He says, this loaf of bread should be like the neder of Isser that I did with my mouth on Tavshin Pei Beis on the first day of Nisan. Says the Gemara Yechidami. Lav ki going to koi bechad b'shabbat demis be'avua. L'chayra, he's standing on the yard side in step 4. It's the same day of his father's death. There's other days in step 3, in step 3.5, step 3.7, all these years in between the death of his father and the day he's standing here today. Then on that yard side, he ate and he fasted and he did a big tikkun and shul and he ate with everybody and there's no fasting. His neder today in step 4 works. So you see from here that when he makes a neder, he's going backwards to step 2. He skips everything in between. He doesn't say what it is today. Today it's mutter for him to eat. No. He's referring to a time of Isser. That's what we have to say, right, Ari? When a guy says something, he means something. He's meaning Isser. He's trying to bring out Isser. He's not very good at explaining it. He's trying to create an isser. You want to say chalois, whatever you want.
Is he making the loaf of bread also, or the days also?
No, the loaf of bread. The loaf of bread like he was usher then. Yeah, the loaf of bread.
Also is like you say, the days also to eat, the days also to eat.
Yeah,
There's also this bread like that.
maybe all the food, maybe all this food today. I don't know if it makes enough kamina. One thing, he looks at this thing or the whole day, I don't know.
No, because we said it has to have a chalais on something.
Right. That's why I said it's. I think he's talking about a loaf of bread. I think, huh? Yeah, he says shleish the yain shleichal this. He's talking about a specific thing. Now Taisa just points out maybe he's talking about Tafshin Pei Aleph. Okay, so what's the answer? That's nothing Tafshin Pei Aleph. There's no way in the world that the guy meant step one. I just put Tafshin Pei Aleph, step one for Taisa's question. There's no way the guy in Tafshin Pei Dalet is talking about step one. Step one is not, it was insignificant. It meant nothing to him then. So obviously he's talking about the year of his father's death. Okay. Says Gemara, so we must say the Shmuel Achi Itmar. Amar Shmuel, Hu Shanadar Uba Moisayoim Ve'elach. It's like this. There's a neder on every single day of every year there was a neder on the yard side. So Mela, again, the same kind of answer. We don't have a raya from here. There is a Shmuel. We're not making this up. The Talmud of Shmuel who said that his Rebbe Shmuel said that it only works when there's a neder on every single year from the day that his father died. Oh, so now I understand. It's not he's matfis mikara. He's not going backwards, skipping over years that are mutter. Every year was aser. So therefore, we have no raya from here. If it's, huh? Oh yeah, got to change the text. Okay, not now. All those are aser. You're right. Great. Should we do it now? No, we don't have time. Omer Ravina. Tashma. Here, you see now all of a sudden the Gemara says Tashma. Before it's Meisei. Tashma. If he says this loaf of bread should be kechala saroin, like the challah that every woman takes on Erev Shabbos when she makes challah and she gives it to the kohen. The challah, what is that? It's a truma. Uketruma, uketrumasai. Like Aaron's truma. Meaning, if you have produce, you give usually 2% to the kohen. Mutter. Why? Why is it mutter? It's not a good neder. Why is it not a good neder? Because it's davar ha'aser. Ayla Maisa, it happened with the guy's mouth. No, because it's within, that's how they explain, it's within the product. The truma is within my produce. I have a pile of produce, the truma somewhere. I'm just saying it's these two over here, and I take them out. The challah also, it's within my dough. I'm just separating that part of the dough. But it's in there. The isser already was created when I made my dough. So it's a davar ha'aser, not a davar ha'mudar, and therefore it's not a neder, mutter. So the Gemara is medayik, and because the Gemara is medayik, we can make any diuk we want, and we're going to make another diuk soon. It doesn't say mufurish. I can infer from here, get trumas lachmi toida, asur. The what? What's lachmi toida? Lachmi toida are the 40 loaves. A person brings a carbon, gives thanks to Hashem, you saved from this. What like today we do a goimel. In those days they would bring a carbon with 40 loaves of bread. 40 loaves of bread, you can't eat it yourself, so you must invite all your friends, they explain. It's a party for your friends. Great. So he has 40 loaves of bread and he removes the truma. He has to give there's 4 types, 40 loaves divided into 4. 4 types of bread. Some are matzah, some are chametz, some are rikikim, some are like this, they're cooked in oil, not. Okay, 4 types. From every type there's 10. So from every 10 he takes 1 and he gives to the kohen. Asur. Ask the Gemara, sponsored as zchus, to continue being able to support Torah and to finish Shas rebellion, Refuah Shlaima, Baruch, Ben Sarah, Ita Yudis, Bas Mindel, Latzlachas, Ben Yom, Ben Ita Yudis, Yud Beis and Beis. Ask the Gemara like this: Trumas lachmi toida. When do you typically take the truma of the lechem? You usually take the truma. It's not so meduyik, my picture. I couldn't find the picture that has like 4, so there's 5 in there. But just ignore. Pretend there's 4 breads in there. Okay, it's just lam chasha. So you have the 40 breads over there, he does zrika, the Kohen does zrika on the carbon taida, and then the Kohen, you go and you take 4 breads and you give it to the Kohen and he can eat it. When does that step 3 typically happen? Step 3 typically happens at step 3, after zrika. Now it could technically happen before zrika, but there's no use for it because the Kohen could only get to eat it after the zrika. So why should a person waste his time? And we're going to get into that soon. But 99% of the time, after the zrika occurs, and you have the bread in front of you, you take 4 and give to the Kohen. And you see that you're going backwards. Why? Because you're saying that if he says, I want my loaf of bread to be like this truma of lachmi toida, it's a good neder, it's aser. But when does he do it? He does it after the zrika, which is mutter. The kohen could eat it then. So obviously he's not talking about it in the time that it's mutter. He's going to step 1 when it's aser. He has to go backwards. So you see the person goes backwards in his neder. Says the Gemara, Ema ketrumas halishka aser. You inferred something wrong, not true. What you infer is not, we said there's 2 things that are mutter, that are not a good neder. Chala and truma. And you want to infer, but truma of the lechem toida is a good neder. No. What you can infer from it is that truma, from trumas halishka, is a good truma. Trumas halishka, remember everybody gives a half a shekel, and 3 times a year they take from this half a shekel and they put it in a box, and that's how they buy the korbanos for the mizbech. If somebody went from that box, or he said, my loaf of bread should be like that box, or like the money in the pile, that's money that's aser, through and through. And it's money that was a neder. People said, okay, this half a shekel should be for the Beis HaMikdash. It's a neder, I did it with my mouth. And that money is always aser. So that's what it means. If somebody's matbis his loaf of bread to that pile of money, it becomes aser. Not if somebody takes his loaf of bread and is matbis it to the breads of a taida. Doesn't mention taida, so now I could put anything I want in there. However, so you're admitting to me that if a person is matbis, he takes his loaf of bread and says, my loaf of bread should be like the taida bread, mutter. It's not a good neder. So if it's not a good neder, why in the world did I only give you 2 examples? I gave you an example of something that's mutter. It's not a good neder. Chala and truma on fruit. I could also say truma of lachmi taida. Why did I say I should put a 3rd thing in the list? It's the same category. It's not a good neder. If I take my loaf of bread and say it should be like one of these 3 things, like chala, truma, and truma of lachmi taida, it's not a good neder. Listni lachmi taida v'kolchkin trumasai. Says Gemara Hakam Ashmalan. Trumas lachmi taida trumasai. Take a look. Very simple. You should just know that the lechem of the taida is like truma. It's the same category. That's the chiddush. I don't have to say lechem, truma of lechem taida. Truma of lechem taida, and that whole chart, all the trumas in my, it's all the same thing. It's something that goes to the kohen. It's possible, like we said, to start off with. When do you give the truma on the lechem taida? Typically, you're right. Typically speaking, you give it after zrika. But since it's possible to do it before zrika, I could do it over here in step 1, before I even have breads. Before I bake the breads, I take the truma off the dough. So memela, I took off the bread belisha. When it's still bread. So again, I'm not before the zrika. What if you baked, instead of 40 breads, you baked 4? 1 bread for each type. You took 10 pieces of dough, you made them 1. You made 1 bread, yatsa, you yaitza. But the Torah, we infer from the Torah, it's not vaksiv. Okay, we figure out from the Torah it's 40. Lemitzvah, the best way to do it is to make 40 breads. You only made 4, 1 from each type, you're yaitza. So how does he take the truma exactly? Let's say he takes one bread from all of it. You can't take one out of 40, out of the 4. In other words, so each pile of dough, you have 4 piles of dough, one for each type of bread. You have to take truma from each pile, from each dough. So now you have dough, and you're going to grab a piece of dough. Or, no, we're talking about now that it's in the dough stage. Hold on, yeah, look. But not echad shleito prusa. Oh, how did it become bread? Hold on. Okay, yes. Talking about bread. Let's go back. He's right. Menachem is right. He baked the bread, but he baked it in 4 breads. 4 breads instead of 40. So he's going to you have to do 40, lemitzvah, that's the best way to do it. But how did he take truma out of it? Let's say he takes 1 bread for all 4. But not you're not yoitzev 1 bread for all types. You have to take from each type. Let's say he took 1 slice from each one of the 4 breads. Was not an echad. You can't take a slice. You have to have a whole bread. Hello. So going on here that he took the challah when it was still dough. The shogol chodem and chametz, v'chodem and chalas, v'chodem and rikikim, v'chodem and revucha. Interesting that the Ran says over here that he made a shape of 10 chalas times 4. He has 40 chalas, and from each 10 he took 1. So in the beginning I didn't understand. So well, why? Why can't he just have the amount of dough for 10 chalas and take a part of the dough? No, maybe because it doesn't fit into the word echad. It has to be 1 whole one. So you make 10 pieces of dough, and you take 1, you grab 1 from there. And in Memela, you see that you're able to take challah from the taida before the zrika. And maybe that's what it's talking about. Says Gemara, let me get that. Should we go weiter a little bit? Let's go weiter. We don't know, how much time do we have? Huh? But it goes deep in. Let me get that note. Let's see how much we do. R Eli B'char. Now, what is a b'char, Rabbi say? B'char is a firstborn. Is it a davar hanadar? Does it happen with your mouth, or it's born b'kedusha? So you would say it's born b'kedusha. That's the simple thing. But believe it or not, we're going to entertain the possibility that since there's a mitzvah to say this is a b'char, you're right, it's born, but you're supposed to say it with your mouth. So perhaps it's davar hanadar. It happens with your mouth. So if a person takes his loaf of bread and says it should be like my firstborn animal, Yaakov says it's a good neder. Review the matter, it's not a good neder. If this is referring to before they shechted this b'char and it became able to eat, my time in the mandashari. Now the Gemara understands that's davar hanadar. He said it with his mouth. He said that this should be a b'char. So if he said this should be a b'char, why is it mutter? My time of the manda asar, and if it's afterwards, why is it considered a good neder? It's already mutter to eat. Elalav, the mochas b'sar b'char, or mochas b'sar daheich gabei. He has 2 pieces of meat. He says this piece of meat or this loaf of bread should be like this piece of meat is b'char. We didn't say anything. This should be like this. And that's the machlokes tanoim. Similar to what we had earlier. Says Gemara Loi, the kuli amal lefnei zrikas damim. We're talking about before Zrika. My time at the Mandashari. The Gemara says, okay, so we can stop over here, even though it's in the middle of a sugya. At the end of the day, like we thought, like everybody said in the room, the Bechar at the end of the day was born Asur, and Memela, the nether is not chal on it, because it's Dover Asur, not Dover Another. Have a wonderful day.